Well, hello there and welcome back to this F1 2020 My Team career mode as we bring back to life the little Minardi team from Italy as we try to do better than what they managed to do in their first attempt in the sport. So at the end of the last episode we was going into the mid-season break. We're back after that. It was the 24th and we managed to get the spark plugs upgrade done for the R&D department. So you can see here, if we look at the tree, that's now come in. So just a quick count of what we look in compared to all the other departments or the other teams. We're last in the powertrain department. We are second last in the aerodynamic department. We are last, but hoping to not be for long because we've got some things in development in the chassis department, and we are also third last in the durability department. So we are possibly the worst team out there. I'm not too sure. And you better, I'm sure that we can improve this car as the races and the seasons go on. Other than that, nothing else really to report. The allocation is pretty much what I would do. So I'll see you guys in the workstation before FP1. So here we are then at the workstation for round 11 of 16 at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit located in the Ardennes Forest region in Belgium. I'm looking forward to this. Not so much our performance on track, but just getting out there to drive the circuit. Spa is a great circuit. I've always loved racing there, whether I'm competitive or not. It's so fast, it's so flowing as well. You ask anyone involved in the F1 community if they like Spa, and I'll be surprised if anyone turns around and says it's a terrible track. But yes, I certainly will enjoy putting some laps in. We've got some messages in the weekend preview from Carl. The weather forecast, cloudy with a bit of sun in qualifying and cloudy with a bit of sun in the race. So development upgrade, we'll have a look at the other cars as well to see what they've recently done. So a rivalry with Daniel Ricciardo, we've got 4 weekends remaining, so we're losing that by 1 point, but it's not too bad to be honest with you. As for our driver details, our average finish keeps creeping up to 13th, our average grid keeps creeping up now to 17th. You can see there we've got 20 points. So the R&D then, so we knew, as I said a couple of minutes ago, that the spark plugs has now come in. We're also awaiting for the 2 chassis department upgrades to come. It should be here just after Belgium. So those are the 2 things we currently have in progress. As for the progress history, let's look at the other teams. Mercedes have had a bit of an upgrade. Racing Point have had a big old upgrade as well. Looks like AlphaTauri, McLaren, Renault have as well. Haas have had a little one. Williams have had a bigger upgrade than we have, so we were marginally ahead for the last few races. We're now completely level, so it'd be interesting to see how Nick De Vries performs against those 2 drivers, Latifi and Russell, considering he's had a stat boost upgrade in the last few weeks. As for units, level 4, number 4 I should say, number 1s are pretty much cream crackered at this point, but we will use them anyway for FP1, see if we can get any practice programs done, and then we'll make our way through these units going further into the weekend, because I kind of want to save units number 4 and 3 for the electronics and the energy store for qualifying and the race. They are still nice and healthy, to be honest, considering we did take part in a full race at Silverstone. For the gearbox then, we're on to our 3rd practice gearbox. Again, we can order a new one at any time. I usually do once we hit 20%. You can see the 19 and 22. The event gearbox then, one of... Wow, what? We've completed one. It's only at 3%. Oh no, because we took a new one after qualifying, didn't we? So it just added 3% in the race. 27 laps, 3% wear. That's good. That means we can stop worrying about the event gearbox. And the weekend tyre allocation, as usual, I've gone for the soft and the medium compound. So there's nothing else left to do other than get to track for FP1. I'll do it off camera and give you a report with the classification at the end of the session. So FP1 ends, we were 22nd, I think about a second off of our own teammate, but of course we were using the very, very old number 1 units. We did manage to complete, though, in purple, both the tyre management and the fuel management programs. So going into FP2, we can probably attempt the track acclimatisation and probably the race strategy one using some slightly better units. I only did about 6 laps, I think, in the practice session. You can see that Hamilton was fastest, just ahead of Bottas and Leclerc. Perez up in P5, showing that Mercedes power. And you scroll down here, you can see Russell there 2.7 off, Latifi 3.3, Nick De Vries 3.6, and ourselves 4.7. We are slowly, I think, starting to slip away a bit more now that Williams have caught up to us a little bit. And obviously in a development race to get the best car out there, the rest of the midfield, Haas, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, so forth, are a long, long way ahead. So it could be a bit of a battle just to beat the Williams cars. But again, we were using some very, very old units. I mean, the turbocharger itself was at 89%, which really means it is completely knackered at this point. Around a fast circuit like Spa, we was always going to struggle. But to be within a second of our teammate is fine. We'll advance now to FP2. I'll go on to some slightly better units, and I'll give you a roundup at the end of that session. So FP2 ends. Vettel fastest a full second somehow ahead of Leclerc. Albon up into P3. We finished down at the bottom somewhere in the timing screens, but we did manage to complete both the race strategy program in purple on the medium tyres, and also managed to complete the the track acclimatization program on soft tyres. So we've got 2 sets of soft tyres to carry into FP3. We'll bolt on some quicker units. And we have the qualifying sim and the ERS management program to try and attempt if we can anyway. So there we are, in a 48.723, 4.938 off the pace, 6 tenths away from Magnussen. Nick De Vries was a little bit quicker than him as well. George Russell on the soft tyres was 1.6 quicker than us, and for whatever reason Latifi was over 6 seconds away from the fastest time. But again, we was using older units number 2 across the board, so hopefully we'll get quicker and quicker as the weekend goes on. We don't really know our pace, I don't think, until we start FP3, because I'll be bolting on the more expensive, shiny, brand new units there, and hopefully we'll have a clearer picture of where we'll be once that session ends. So we're back at the workstation then before FP3. So the last change I do have to make now is obviously going on to the, I don't know really. Yeah, we'll go straight on to units number 4. We really need to know where we're going to be in the pecking order. Obviously units number 3 there for the energy store and the electronic system. So these are the brand spanking new units that we used for just the race in Silverstone. You can see there they're all pretty healthy, none of them over 10%. The practice gearbox and up to 18%. The event gearbox that will now be running for the rest of this weekend, only 3% wear. So we've got some very nice units now on the car. Hopefully it will not last by a long way at the end of this session. So let's go to FP3 and let's tackle a couple of the practice programs. So just 20 minutes left of this 30-minute session. You can see there a handful of drivers have already set lap times. None of the slowest guys just yet. Grosjean is in sector 3. So we don't know what Russell, Nick De Vries and Latifi are going to do yet, although our teammate is out on circuit at the moment. So I don't know what to expect really. So the car setup then, might as well show you that. We'll drain the fuel out, not really matters too much. Aerodynamics running 5.7, transmission 60-60, suspension geometry to the right for the camber, to the left for the toe, suspension 4.4, 6, 5, 6, 7, brakes 154, and the tyres then 1 click down for the front and rear right tyre pressures, 2 clicks down for the front and the rear left. They're almost balanced. The left front is a little higher by like 1% per lap. And we've got 2 sets of soft tyres that we can use. 9 laps expected on those, 14 for the mediums, 18 for the hards. So 2 practice sessions, 2 practice, what's the word I'm looking for? I've drawn a blank. 2 practice programs. There we go. Jesus, got there in the end. To try and attempt ERS management, qualifying pace. If we manage to get purple on both of them, we've also got a few other R&D objectives to do. Team objectives, be fast in sector 1, 2 and 3. That's the qualifying pace one. And the engine ERS, due to the recent powertrain upgrade that we've had, use the updated engine specification, utilise the additional power to record a competitive top speed. The top speed trap is at the top of Rouge, just going through Radion. So ERS management, qualifying pace. We'll start with the ERS management straight away, and we'll jump out on track for that. So the ERS management, if you are unfamiliar with it for whatever reason, basically it's all about managing your ERS. You want to be in the green or ideally the purple. The ERS you have is either none or everything, so it's either ERS level 0 or number 3, and you have to sort of manage it a little bit and remain inside the delta, a green lap time in the delta. Ideally the best way to do it is just drive as fast as you can, and coming onto some long straights or some areas where you don't really need to lift off for a good 7 or 8 seconds. Along here, for example, you want to give it a little bit of a squirt with the ERS, because you'll see on the qualifying on the ERS lap that if you run the overtake button for more than a couple of seconds, it really does start to drop down a little bit. I've struggled with this in the first part of the season to get it right, but I've sort of nailed it from now on. And now with the super duper units on the car, as you can see here, everything quite nicely. The control electronic system that sort of handles the ERS is at 10%, but that is our worst unit. So 10% to be our worst means we're in a very healthy position here. Okay, so just coming up to the bus stop chicane, the final couple of corners. Keep it in third gear for now. Nice and wide. Cut back in on exit. Open up the DRS. Here we go. So into the final chicane, the bus stop chicane. You can see there on the right hand side our Delta. We're very, very good. We're all the way in the purple. So easily achievable at the first time of asking, up into P16. So we'll come back into the pits, but on another set of tyres, and we'll go for the qualifying pace programme. Okay, coming up to the final chicane again. Here we go then. This is an all-out balls out attempt. See if we can manage to do it at the first time of asking. And over the line, it's only green. It's only green, and we won't have enough tyre life again to get purple, I don't think. Puts us in P14 now. And already a couple of attempts down, so the tyre life already, as you can see there. That's what happens after one lap, when you really go for it. So unfortunately, we'll back off now. Tour back to the pits. And that'll be FP3 over. We purpled everything apart from the qualifying sim program, but that's fine. We've still got green, so we're not completely turning into a shitbox here. So then FP3 ends with us in P14, just a shade away from Ocon in the Renault. The lap itself felt okay. Because obviously this lap time would be from our qualifying one. Couple of little mistakes here and there. Probably could have maybe found a couple of more attempts, which would put me just behind the likes of Gasly, Verstappen down in 11th place, Giovinazzi and Ricciardo as well. So we're close in the midfield there. Further down, Nick De Vries has managed to get ahead of Grosjean and George Russell. And Nick De Vries was in the hard tyres as well, so I'm quite surprised by that. Maybe if he was in the softs, he could have been about a 2.5 or something like that. But anyway, yeah, I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with the car. I think I found a decent setup. The soft tyres really do wear out here. But I think if I can manage it a little bit in the race, we could maybe looking at soft to mediums, or at worst soft to hards. I don't think this is going to be a race where we'll do mediums to hards. We'll just be too slow, because I think everyone's going to be starting on the softs. But anyway, FP3 is done. Plenty of resource points gained over the last 3 sessions, and now we have qualifying at Spa to look forward to. So the resource points, 583 from me, 180 from Nick De Vries, puts us up to 1,900 exactly. 18% for me. You can see how much it's slowed down by. 14% for Nick De Vries, 32% combined boost. I think it does improve a little bit as you do like qualifying, especially the race, but you can see there level 9, 18% barely made a difference. So back in the workstation, and before the all-important qualifying session, we've got a message there from Jeff about the circuit. The weather itself hasn't changed, well, I don't think at all, really, has it? No, it's not. It's going to be dry, a little bit overcast in qualifying. The sun does creep through in the race for 22 lap event as well. Yeah, so for the units then, obviously we'll be running the most powerful ones and the most reliable ones that we've got. We may have to take another massive grid penalty again before the end of the season just to have some better units, but I am trying my best to use the older units in the practice sessions as much as I can, but it will get to a point where we just can't use them anymore because we won't be able to get any practice programs done. But we've got the best units on there now for qualifying and of course the race. Nothing else to talk about, so we'll go to the qualifying session and see what we can do in the 18 minutes that we've got. So around about 14.5 minutes left of this session. I'm only going to do 2 runs in qualifying compared to the usual 3 that we'll try to do. No lap times are being set just yet, although Magnussen, I believe, is just about to cross the line, so he's going to take a very early provisional pole with a 1:44.0. We've got 4 sets of soft tyres, but we're only going to be using 2, so we'll carry 1 over into the race. So we'll get out on track. Park firmware regulations, of course, are now into effect. And we'll have a nice slow outlap. Hence the reason for only doing 2 runs. I want to take a good, probably 2.5 minutes really to get round on my outlap to try and save these soft tyres. There's no point in hammering them on an outlap. So you've got people on in-laps, fast laps and out-laps as well. And it's all about trying to save the tyres. Here we are then. Coming up to the final chicane. You can see there 1% on the tyres. So we've done a good job. And here we go. So lap time puts us in P16. We did make a mistake at the first corner and the lap itself felt not really nailed on too much. And we are ahead of De Vries and Latifi. Behind Russell though, so I only assume there's a couple of drivers out there yet to set their first lap time. So I think we're looking at P20 once we get back to the garage. So just under 4 minutes left of the session. I'll be leaving the garage probably on the 3-minute mark and take my sweet time to get round the circuit. We are indeed now in 20th place. We're just nearly 2 tenths away from George Russell. We're 3 tenths clear of Nick De Vries, 4 tenths clear of Latifi, but I can definitely find some more time. We need to find 6 tenths, just over 6 tenths to get ahead of Grosjean. Don't think that's going to happen somehow, unfortunately. Another thing I noticed in the setup as well, I didn't drain enough fuel out, so we could probably go a little bit faster if we wanted to. You can see there's now some cars certainly coming out on circuit. Kvyat's already out there, both the Williams, De Vries is out there, Hamilton, both the Ferraris, the Red Bulls are coming out as well. There's now 3 minutes left of the session. So it's our cue to get out there. Okay, here we go. Let's find that improvement. So that felt like a pretty decent lap. I think I lost quite a bit of time though at the bus stop chicane. Getting the braking right for that is always a little bit tricky. But Bottas has taken pole, 7.5 tenths ahead of Verstappen, Albon up into third, Hamilton back into fourth. Vettel, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Ricciardo and Ocon complete the top 10. We scroll down, 19th place for us, a 10.5 ahead of Russell. Again, about a 10.5, a little bit more ahead of Nick De Vries, and about 6 tenths ahead of Latifi. We were about 5.5 tenths to 6 tenths off of Grosjean. So it could be a long race around here at Spa, but at least we've managed to get ahead of both the Williams and our teammate once again. So the rivalry breakdown there, Ricardo out-qualified us. So again, we're slipping further and further back now, 10 to 8. Still very close, but yeah, we need a monumental effort here to get ahead of him. 18% for us, 14% for Nick De Vries, 32% combined for the team, so not much changing there. So back in the workstation then, before the all-important 22-lap race event. Pre-race notes there from Jeff. Time to put all that preparation to good use. Mind your front wing to turn 1. It's called carbon fibre because you're supposed to keep it on the car, not smash it all over the circuit. The joke is great. The race, I think the weather forecast has changed a little bit. Let's have a look. No, it's still the same as it was at the beginning of the weekend. So overcast with a bit of sun creeping through, but at least it's going to remain dry. There's nothing else to change on the car, so we might as well go ahead to the race. Have a look at the build-up and the grid formation as well to see if anyone has any penalties, and then of course we'll have a little gander at our race strategy.
We're in Belgium once again for today's round of the Formula One World Championship. It's a race the great Ayrton Senna won 6 times, and in 2019 Charles Leclerc became the first driver to take their maiden win here since Michael Schumacher in 1992. Spa-Francorchamps today, a circuit that spans 4.35 miles. There are tons of elevation changes along the way too. 19 corners making up this circuit, with 9 of those to the right and the remaining 10 to the left. This track is a great one for fans of pure speed. The average lap speed comes close to a whopping 145 miles an hour. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
There are 3 main things to worry about there, Crofty. Positioning, awareness and discipline. First, you have to put your car in a bit of space and make sure you have room to react to what the others are doing. Then you have to watch your mirrors and listen to the sounds around you to get a sense of where everyone is. And finally, just don't get too greedy. Just because a gap exists doesn't always mean you should go for it.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Albon, Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel and Perez, Sainz, Ricciardo, Ocon and Daniel Kvyat, Gasly, Stroll, Kimi Raikkonen and Magnussen, Giovinazzi, Norris, Romain Grosjean and Lee, De Vries, Latifi, Russell and Charles Leclerc completes today's grid order. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So that is the race introduction and the grid formation. 2 grid penalties out there. George Russell has a 10-place grid penalty. He was behind us anyway. Leclerc has a 20-place grid penalty and starts at the very back. So we have been promoted 1 position up into P18. Softs on to mediums. That is the strategy we will select. Hopefully we can actually do it. We'll start with 2 laps worth of extra fuel. No, actually I'm going to start with 1.5 laps of extra fuel. The reason for that is we seem to be getting a lot of safety cars and virtual safety cars pretty much every race so far, which enables us to save quite a bit of fuel. So we'll start on the softs, go on to the mediums. If we're finding that the softs are wearing out a little bit, we can go on to the hards. There's about a 2.5 to 3 second difference between that. But yeah, that's definitely the strategy we'll choose. So the formation lap will begin now. 4 cars behind us, including the Ferrari of Leclerc. Super interesting to see him burn his way through the field. As we begin now on the formation lap, Grosjean ahead of us is on the mediums.
On the start, but we need to warm the tyres properly now. Make sure you get some heat into the brakes as well.
Copy all that. So starting from P18, I'm not too sure what to expect from this race. We seem to be a little bit off the pace of those directly ahead of us, you know, 17th up to about 12th or 13th. Grosjean starting on the mediums. It'd be nice if we can manage to get past him off the start, because I think he'll be initially quite slow in the first couple of laps. Then his tyres will obviously come in whilst the soft tyres start to wear off a little bit, and it's all going to be about managing these soft tyres really. The longer we can go on these, then the better opportunity we've got of going on to the medium tyres. 8 laps on the set of soft tyres is going to be a challenge. Because after about 3 or 4 laps, they was already into the mid to high 20s. And the thing is, you know, you can push all these tyres to about 70-80%, but you know, 70% the hard tyres are sort of okay. The medium tyres at 70% are a bit bad, and then at 70% of the soft tyres they are horrendous. So even though we could do 8 laps quite easily on these tyres, the last 2 or 3 laps we're going to be dog shit slow, and that's what I don't want. So it's going to be a case of just trying to look after these soft tyres as we can, try to get past Grosjean if we can as well, and all importantly to keep it clean. I think going 1.5 laps of extra fuel rather than 2 or 3 that we sometimes do, I think could help us. Plenty of opportunities around here, of course, to use the ERS, the overtake ERS button. There's several long straights around here, certainly along the Kemmel straight on the exit of Radion up to Les Combes. 2 DRS zones here as well. One is along that main straight, and the other one is the short little main straight that we're just coming onto now. But I think the best overtaking opportunity for us will be into Les Combes. So we'll come back onto the grid now, take up our grid spot on the outside for turn 1. So ideally I want to try and get to the inside if I can. And we'll see how the start goes. So the lights come on now. Let's try and get ahead of Grosjean off the start. Done it. Chuck it up there in the inside into turn 1. Done alright there. Up to P13. Look at that. That's the advantage of the inside line. Oh, running a bit wide over the Eau Rouge chicane. We'll try and protect this inside if we can, but I think I'm about to get swamped by both of the Alfa Romeos. Indeed I am. So back down to P15 immediately.
Keep pushing. Let's capitalise on that first lap.
Good to be ahead of that Haas car that's on the medium tyres is a good thing. Don't think we have any damage on the car. Indeed we don't. Put on a heavy fuel. You need to lift off a little bit. Sort of out of position here a little bit off the start, having gained so many positions there at turn 1. Try and stick with these Alfa Romeos if we can. Bottoming out a little bit along the high speed straights. I can hear the plank underneath the car scraping along the tarmac. And that's that one completed. P15. Here comes Norris up the inside. Demotes as a position, but still doing okay. So into lap 3, DRS is now being enabled. I think we've done just enough here to get it off of Norris. Indeed we have, but we've got Leclerc behind us. And through comes the Ferrari. That was only a matter of time, really, let's be honest here. We were never going to be fighting Leclerc throughout this race. So that's down to P17. We're almost a second clear of Magnussen on those medium tyres, and just over 2 seconds clear of De Vries. So we got the beating of the guys behind us at the moment. This is all about settling into a rhythm for us for the next few laps, looking after these tyres the best we can, and seeing what happens in about 3 or 4 laps time. Just into lap 5 now, sticking with these guys in front of us. wild there for Eau Rouge again. Still getting a DRS. Magnussen is close behind us, but we're dropping everyone further back, which is good.
Flag.
Oh, we're coming into a yellow flag zone.
There's an incident.
Something's happened up ahead.
No overtaking through the yellow flags.
Oh, we're moving to right hand side. Oh, as Vettel is like spun or crashed there.
Gate clear.
Halfway down the Kemmel Straight, which is very unusual, so I don't know whether he's made contact with someone that he was trying to pass. And Vettel has had a bit of a spinella. And that promotes us into P16 as we now start to think about when our pit stop's going to happen. Vettel has rejoined. You can see on check my map there at the back. So it wasn't a retirement, it was a spin. Might have damage on the car as well. Anyway, forget about Vettel, focus on our own race. Just about keeping pace with these guys in the midfield. I'm very good against them through sector 3. And we've dropped Magnussen as well a little bit. So lap 7 now. Hamilton's made a pit stop. He's rejoined a couple of positions behind us on the hard tyres. I'm going to be pitting in, well, not at the end of this lap, that's for sure. Soft tyres are starting to go a little bit, but I'm going to hang on and try to do this race on softs and mediums. Here comes Magnussen. No, he's too far back to try anything. Oh, in fact, he was there. Oh, and he's made contact and spun. Oh, okay, I don't know. Plead ignorance to that one. So just come through Blanchimont now. Welcome to P13. We're about to come in now for our hopefully one and only pit stop. And we're going on to the medium tyres, so we've managed to make the strategy work for us. You'll be hesitant there on the brakes for the pit lane. Let's see where we rejoin.
Go, go.
So we're out in P20, but I know there's a few cars ahead of us that are still yet to pit. Russell is behind us by 7 and a bit seconds. Vettel's obviously a long way back as well, having to make a pit stop to fix damage. So we'll see where we are in a few laps once everyone pits. Oh, and we've got a yellow flag.
Battery charge is high.
It's a slow car here. It's Norris pulling off to the side of a track. So Norris retires from the race.
Virtual safety car, virtual safety car.
We've got
Reduce
VSC
speed
because of it.
immediately and keep a positive delta.
So there's a few drivers in the pits now as we come across to start lap 11. My teammate, a Williams and a Haas car. Looks like I managed to get the jump on all of them. Up into P16. Magnussen still ahead in 15th. He's yet to make his pit stop. So we could be looking at a P15 here, I should say. Unless anything else amazing happens ahead of us. So Magnussen pulls off into the pits. We were catching him at quite a rate of knots actually. And that's us now up into P15. Pretty comfortable in P15 as well. Grosjean behind's on the hard tyres. There's a bit of a gap to the midfield ahead of us. 9 seconds in fact. So unfortunately, unless anything amazing happens from here on out, we'll be looking at a P15 finish. We'll try our best to keep Grosjean behind. Everyone else behind him not really going to be a threat to us. So Grosjean might come on towards the end of the race once our medium tyres go off. As it stands at the moment, we're looking at a P15 finish, which, well, we started 18th, so we gained 3 positions. Not much else we can do, really. Okay, coming into lap 19, medium tyres are starting to show a bit of slip, certainly in the lower speed corners. You can see that Grosjean is catching us. But the bigger pressing concern is the fact that Vettel is catching the pair of us. So I could very well be defending 15th place from a Haas and a Ferrari in the next lap or so. It's 4 laps to go now. I've just been pounding around, pushing as hard as I can. We're low on fuel, low on ERS, so there might not be much I can do if they do manage to catch me. I'm in trouble here. Here comes Grosjean. Defend the inside. And he's done us around the outside. The medium tyres just all of a sudden just completely died. I've now got Vettel behind me as well. He'll be easily through in the next few laps. And then we do have a decent gap back to Russell, who's in 18th. So it looks like a P17 for us. Vettel is definitely going to get past before the end of his race. Here he goes now. Didn't make it difficult for him. So let's try with 2 laps to go to hold on to his P17, which is going to be slightly disappointing, I think, actually, now we've dropped down these 2 positions. But it's another finish at least. That's what it matters. So the bus stop chicane to start the final lap.
This is your final lap of the race.
Vettel has managed to get past Grosjean. And we've got a good gap to Russell behind. Haven't used any rich mix fuel or overtake ERS last couple of laps. Pointless, really. As we come through Eau Rouge and Radion for the 22nd and final time. Tyre graph is now starting to show up. You can see there's 60% on the front left, so the mediums were starting to go a little bit. But we'll bring it home at least. Barring any calamitous mistakes from me on the final lap for 17th, which is one better than what we, well, 2 positions better than we managed in qualifying, but of course we started in 18th due to Leclerc's penalty. Not too sure where he's ended up, probably somewhere towards the front. And as races go, it's not been the most entertaining of races as Hamilton wins the race, but it's all about just getting to the finish anyway, collecting the resource points, improving our reclaim. The first season really is just a sort of introductory season, I say, for us really, and season 2 is hopefully where we start to make some more improvements as well. And we get a better engine, better sponsor, you never know, but for now anyway, it's all about just going through the motions, but trying to enjoy it anyway. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to be finishing P17 in every race. We certainly haven't finished in P17 every race. But I would have expected maybe a little more from this circuit. But we have comfortably beat the Williams cars and our teammate, and a Haas car as well, which is always nice as we overshoot a little bit into the bus stop chicane, but it means nothing. Out of the final corner and across the line for a lowly P17, but it's another finish nevertheless. So Hamilton wins, Albon second, Bottas in third. Leclerc, I'll just say, picks up the drive for the day with 7th place from the back of the field and with the fastest lap. Gasly as well from 11th to 6th. Good job from him. Perez picks up the final point in 10th. It's Giovinazzi, Kvyat, Stroll, Raikkonen, Vettel in 15th. Got past Grosjean at the end. We ended up in 17th place, 3.5 seconds ahead of Russell. Nick De Vries back in 19th ahead of Magnussen, Latifi and Lando Norris retired close to the midway point of the race. So in the standings then, Hamilton has a 58-point lead over Vettel. Bottas just 1 point behind. Verstappen, Albon and Leclerc also very close. Albon moves up into 5th actually. Ricciardo moves up into 10th place. We drop down into 12th. No other movers or shakers towards the bottom of the order. In the constructors, Mercedes holds an 86-point lead over Ferrari, continuing to stretch their legs. Red Bull still within touching distance of 2nd place. Renault move up ahead of AlphaTauri into 5th. We remain in 8th place on 20 points. So the rivalry breakdown, we lose that to Ricciardo 4-2, so he continues to extend his slender lead over us. 14-10 now with 3 race weekends remaining. The team acclaim 18% for me, 14% for Nick De Vries, 32 in total for the team. And finally the cash, we achieved all of 3 of our secondary sponsors. A little bit of damage reduction there as well. but we go from 8.95 to 9.64, so $700,000 we gained from that weekend. So it's just a few days then before the Italian Grand Prix. We've got some activities and some messages. We put together an estimate on how our car's performance is stacking up against our rivals. This will change week to week and race to race as other teams fit new developments, so it's important we don't slack off on our R&D either. I do believe we have had some R&D come in. Let's have a look. Have we not? No, we haven't, so that's fine. So then we've only got really a couple of days, nothing more than that. We do have a couple of chassis upgrades hopefully coming in tomorrow. So we've got reaction training, which is increase the awareness stat of Nick de Vries by 1, driver promotion filming, a power team building, and a sponsor event. Well, we'll go for the reaction training, of course, to try and get Nick de Vries up just a little bit more, so we'll advance the time. And both of the chassis upgrades come in at the first attempt. The reaction training as well for Nick de Vries, which is very good. So we can have a look at the R&D screen then, have a look at the chassis department. You can see there that both of these upgrades have come in, and it has put us comfortably ahead of Williams for the moment, but still behind the rest of the field. But we do have over 2,000 resource points to spend, which we'll probably spend after Italy. We'll have a look at the corporate side of things for drivers. So Nick de Vries should have, there's probably another screen I can probably press to go on this. So his awareness has gone up again, it's up to +6 now. Rating of 75 puts him ahead of Latifi, Giovinazzi. I think George Russell was the next at 77. So we are improving Nick de Vries as much as we can, and every opportunity we get we will do that. As for contract, and obviously until the end of the season for him, sponsorship as well. 4 days this sponsor will end, and so we'll have to choose a new one. It'll be a while before we get to reclaim level 20 to get a 4th secondary sponsor. And yeah, so the units I'll change over when we're in the workstation before we go to FP1 for Italy. And of course at Italy I did say that we'd have a new livery as well. So I'll end the episode here then and pick up at the workstation before FP1. We'll have a new livery on the car. We'll still keep with the black, white and green, but it'll be a bit more streamlined and a bit more hopefully looking a little bit better than what it already does at the moment. And we'll obviously talk about the upgrades that all the other teams have had, including our own, and then focus on the next race weekend. But as for this race weekend, yeah, it's been okay really. Sort of literally, Belgium was a perfect example of just going through the motions, really getting all the resource programs done as best as we can, trying to save our best unit until we really needed it from FP3 onwards. Qualifying was sort of average and okay, where we're supposed to be all season, and the race was as well. Being nice to have finished ahead of Grosjean and Vettel towards the end, but unfortunately the medium tyres just died off with a couple of laps to go. But we still finished, gaining plenty of resource points, money and experience, and at this stage of our first season, that's all that matters. But we have a team's home race coming up next, something I'm very looking forward to. So thank you very much for watching this episode, and I'll see you all for the next one very soon.